What's up, Steelers Nation? Before we get rolling, make sure to smash that like button. It really helps the channel and shows your support for all things black and gold. The Steelers are still working hard to improve, sharpen every detail, and bounce back stronger after a tough stretch. And right now, it looks like General Manager Omar Khan and head coach Mike Tomlin are gearing up to make some moves that could reshape this offense heading into the second half of the season. Let's get into it, because we've got breaking news on the injury front and a huge trade rumor that could completely change the Steelers' wide receiver room. The Pittsburgh Steelers just can't seem to catch a break when it comes to injuries this season. Veteran wide receiver Ben Skowronek was added to the injury report this week as a limited participant due to a neck injury ahead of the team's Week 9 showdown with the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the good news is that Skowronek was limited, not ruled out entirely, meaning there's still hope he can suit up. But any neck injury is worth monitoring closely, especially for a player who contributes in multiple phases of the game. This marks Skowronek's first real appearance on the injury report since he dealt with an illness back in Week 6 against Cleveland. He fought through that and played, but Steelers fans will remember that when he first arrived in Pittsburgh in 2024, he immediately landed on injured reserve with a shoulder injury. That sidelined him for 7 games before returning in Week 10 last season. On top of that, he also battled through a hip issue late last year that forced him to miss the Christmas Day matchup against the Chiefs. The guy is tough, no doubt about it, but it's clear that the wear and tear is starting to add up. Now, with Skowronek nursing a neck injury and Scotty Miller still sidelined by a broken finger, Pittsburgh's depth at wide receiver is being tested again. Miller missed last week's primetime game against the Green Bay Packers and didn't practice at all to start this week. The hope was that Calvin Austin III's return from a shoulder injury would help stabilize things, and it did to a degree. But losing Skowronek could complicate the offensive rotations heading into a must-win matchup with the Colts. Austin finally returned in Week 8 after missing 2 games, and having both him and DK Metcalf healthy gives the offense its best 1-2 punch. Meanwhile, Roman Wilson, the rookie out of Michigan, has shown flashes of big playability, and the Steelers hope he can continue to grow into a more consistent threat. But let's not forget, Skowronek has been a vital part of special teams, logging over 130 snaps this season. After Miles Killebrew's season-ending knee injury, the Steelers simply can't afford to lose another key contributor in that unit. His status will be one of the most-watched storylines as practice continues this week. Now, here's where things get really interesting. According to reports from multiple insiders, including ESPN's Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano, the Steelers are keeping close tabs on Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Jakobi Meyers as the trade deadline approaches on November 4th. Fowler wrote, "Several teams are believed to be in the receiver market, most notably the Steelers and possibly the Broncos and Bills. Meyers clearly wants out, and the Raiders are in a transitional phase. They just signed veteran Tyler Lockett, which could ease the loss of dealing Meyers. Pittsburgh is keeping tabs on this one, but is prepared to be patient. If I had to predict a destination right now, I'd say the Steelers." Let's pause there. Fowler flat out said, if I had to predict the destination, I'd say the Steelers. That's huge. This isn't just some random rumor floating around. This is a well-sourced report that indicates Pittsburgh is in real discussions to bring in another receiver. And frankly, it makes perfect sense. Jakobi Meyers would check every box for what this Steelers offense needs right now. He's a polished route runner, a reliable possession receiver, and a strong complement to DK Metcalf's deep threat ability. With Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, timing and chemistry are everything. And Meyers has shown throughout his career in New England and Las Vegas that he can quickly build trust with elite quarterbacks. He's not flashy, but he's consistent, and that's exactly what this offense is missing beyond Metcalf. Right now, Calvin Austin III has had some decent moments, but he hasn't gone over 100 yards in a single game this season. Roman Wilson's potential is exciting, but he's still developing. A veteran like Meyers could help balance out this receiver room, giving Rodgers a dependable wide receiver too and taking pressure off of both Austin and Wilson. And let's not forget, if the Steelers can bring in Meyers before Sunday's game against the Colts, he could make an immediate impact. Imagine a trio of DK Metcalf, Jakobi Meyers, and Calvin Austin with Roman Wilson roading in. Suddenly, this receiving core looks a whole lot more dangerous. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been the problem this season. In fact, the veteran quarterback has looked sharp when given time in the pocket. The issue has been consistency from the supporting cast. Drops, injuries, and lack of separation on key downs have slowed the offense down in critical moments. Meyers' addition could be the piece that finally unlocks the offense down the stretch. He's known for making the tough catches over the middle and moving the chains, something Pittsburgh's offense desperately needs on third downs. And when you think about Rodgers' career, his best offenses have always featured multiple reliable weapons. Adding Meyers could help the Steelers not only keep pace in the AFC North, but also set them up for a serious playoff run. This is especially important considering that 2025 might be Rodgers' last year in Pittsburgh or even in the NFL. The front office knows it can't waste this window. That's why Omar Khan's aggressiveness at the deadline could define this season. The trade deadline is just days away, and the Steelers have a choice to make. Either wait and hope that the current group can stay healthy and step up, or be proactive and bring in proven talent to make a push. After dropping 2 straight games, sitting at 4-4 and facing the AFC's #1 offense in the Colts this weekend, now is not the time for hesitation. The front office has already shown signs that it's willing to buy. Mike Tomlin said earlier this week that the Steelers are always buyers at the deadline, and the pursuit of Meyers proves that wasn't just talk. This team is trying to win, and adding another weapon like Meyers could be the spark that reignites their playoff hopes. Ever since Big Ben hung up the cleats, it feels like the Steelers have been on a never-ending journey to find their next franchise quarterback. First, they tried Kenny Pickett, the local hero from Pitt, and we all know how that turned out. Inconsistency, injuries, and missed opportunities led the team to move on.
Then, this offseason, Pittsburgh took a bold swing by bringing in Aaron Rodgers, a future Hall of Famer, to stabilize the position. And to his credit, Rodgers has done just that. He's played well, he's led the team with confidence, and he's bought into the Steelers' culture. But even with Rodgers under center, fans can't help but wonder, what's next? Rodgers isn't a long-term solution. He's 41 years old, and every season could realistically be his last. So the pressure is on the front office to find that next man up, the next long-term signal caller who can take this team into the next decade. Enter Will Howard. When the Steelers drafted Howard in the 6th round of the 2025 NFL Draft, it wasn't headline news. He wasn't expected to walk into training camp as a starter or even the top backup. But fans who watched his college playoff run saw something special. Howard finished his college career with a bang, knocking off some of the best programs in the country and looking every bit like a leader who could handle pressure. He's got all the physical traits you could ask for: a strong arm, mobility, and size. The kid looks the part. And when he arrived in Pittsburgh, the fan base immediately bought in. Fans started calling him the future of the franchise. And to be fair, they had reason to be excited. Howard's first few days of training camp were promising. Reporters described him as confident, sharp, and surprisingly accurate for a late-round pick. But then, everything changed. He suffered a fluke injury while taking a snap, sidelining him for weeks and keeping him out of all 3 preseason games. Just like that, his momentum was gone, and Steelers fans never got to see him throw a single pass in live game action. Now Howard's back at practice after a long stint on injured reserve. But while fans are still eager to see him take the field, the Steelers coaching staff doesn't seem nearly as enthusiastic. During his weekly chat for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Gary Dulac was asked about the team's view of Will Howard. His response? "I think they are willing to see what he has, given that they never got the chance this year at all. I don't think they think he's the savior, nor do I think they think he's a permanent backup." That's a pretty big statement. Essentially, Dulac is saying the Steelers don't view Howard as the future and not even necessarily as a reliable backup quarterback long-term. That's not what fans wanted to hear. Steelers Nation has been buzzing with hope that Howard might develop into the next great Pittsburgh quarterback. He's young, talented, and has shown flashes of leadership potential. But inside the organization, it seems like the optimism just isn't there. Now, before we overreact, it's worth remembering Howard is a sixth-round pick. Very few quarterbacks taken that late are expected to be immediate contributors, let alone franchise players. Most of them are developmental projects, guys who might take 2 or 3 years before they're truly ready for NFL action. The Steelers' plan for 2025 was never about rushing Howard. They've got Rodgers as a starter and Mason Rudolph as a steady, experienced backup. This season was all about learning, getting Howard comfortable with the speed of the NFL, digesting the playbook, and building confidence. Still, Duloc's report does raise an important question. If the team doesn't view Howard as the long-term option, what's next? Could Pittsburgh go back to the draft in 2026 and take another quarterback early? Maybe even trade up to land one of the top college prospects? That's absolutely on the table. The front office has been aggressive lately, from trading for DK Metcalf to signing veterans like Jalen Ramsey, and if they believe there's a future star quarterback available next spring, they won't hesitate to move up. Here's the thing. We still haven't seen Will Howard play a single NFL snap, and you can't write off a guy before you've even seen him throw a pass in real game action. The Steelers might be cautious because they haven't had the chance to properly evaluate him. His injury robbed him of a preseason showcase, and now, with Rodgers locked in as the starter, there's just not much opportunity for him to prove himself. But once the 2025 season wraps up, and especially if Rodgers decides to retire, there's no reason not to give Howard a real shot in 2026. Let the kid take the field, compete for the job, and show what he can do. He might not be the next Big Ben, but he could still be a solid starter in this league with time and proper coaching. And you know what? The city of Pittsburgh deserves to see that competition play out on the field, not just on paper. So here's the big picture. Ben Skowronek is dealing with a neck injury that could impact both offense and special teams. Scotty Miller is still sidelined with a finger issue. The Steelers' WR room is thin and the offense needs help. And the front office is reportedly eyeing Jakobi Meyers as a top trade target before the November 4th deadline. If they could pull off that trade, it could completely change the tone of the season, turning a struggling offense into one of the most balanced units in the AFC. But what do you think, Steelers fans? Should the team go all in and trade for Jakobi Meyers? Or should they trust the current group to get it done once they're fully healthy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you think the Steelers should do before the deadline. And don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more exclusive Steelers news, trade rumors, and analysis, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss a single update. Big week ahead for the Black and Gold. Let's see if Omar Khan pulls the trigger and gets Rodgers the help he needs. Here we go, Steelers Nation.